All right. Welcome to the Rise Up podcast. And on this show, I do my best to help chronic dieters break the negative feedback loop of losing weight, gaining weight, and going through a bunch of terrible, miserable things that have ultimately made their health and their well-being a lot harder than it has to be. And my goal is to truly help simplify everything that goes into the health and wellness process so that you realize that you can be happy and healthy at the same time. And this is a very special episode because it is officially today, March 23rd, 2023, my 2-year anniversary of making a podcast. And it's kind of crazy to kind of look back on how this has evolved over the last 2 years. First it started with the Athlete for Life podcast, and that was fun when I thought I would wanted to work with athletes, but realized I wasn't truly meant to work with athletes, and that's a story for another day. And then I turned into the Fat Loss is Easy podcast, which I still claim to a certain degree, but I have to provide more context than just saying that continuously, because I attracted a lot of the wrong people. Or it seemed like I was over promising a lot more, or I wasn't communicating what made fat loss a lot easier. And that's why I switched it up to the Rise Up podcast, because I still want to make this process a lot easier than it has been for you. But when I did used to have my tagline as Fat Loss is Easy, and the Fat Loss is Easy podcast, I wasn't really talking about the things that do make it easy, and that's why I switched it to here, because I feel like I've had to talk a lot about the mental side of things that do make it a lot harder than it needs to be. Once you address those first, then it gets a little bit easier. But neither here nor there. You live and you learn, and you continue to show up even if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And yeah, so if you've been with me since day one, I appreciate the hell out of you. If you are new, I still appreciate the hell out of you to spend some time with me, and hopefully I'll be able to help you even in a small way. And if you learned something today, I really appreciate it if you just share this with one person, or if you share it on social media, tag me in it, because I always love seeing that stuff. And if you want to see or hear any of my other short form content, or other platforms, they're all linked in the show notes down below. Um, and yeah, I wanted to take this 2-year anniversary and just kind of start from the beginning. Like, here, I don't think I've shared my story. I've shared bits and pieces of my story throughout each episode, but I think I wanted to just make this one just like a clear cut, my story from almost start to finish. I don't need to go back all the way, but everything that I've learned over the last, God, 3.5 years, for my own personal development, and just going through a lot of transformational pieces, not only physically but mentally, that have led me to a point where I found a career and a job that I love, that I get to do. And it really, it all started realizing where all my struggles really came from. I love health and fitness. I love everything that it's given me, it's provided for me. Health and fitness has always been a part of my life, because sports have always been a part of my life. Um, and I was always in this weird mental place. Always, from a young kid, I always struggled so much with feeling worthy, like I deserve to be here. And I kind of laugh because it's taken a long time for me to actually understand what that meant. I always felt I had to prove my worth. And the only way I felt like I could prove my worth was through my athletics. I didn't really care much for school or anything outside of being able to use my body. And I didn't know this for a long time, until like the last 4 years of my own personal development. I learned that. I learned that from growing up. And this is not going to be or I blame my upbringing, I blame my parents for everything. Like, no, like, I learned a lot about this. And yeah, my mom had me when she was super young, and all she wanted was the best for me. And she thought that pushing me, and not even just me, all my siblings in sports, was, a great way to help us, go the extra mile, and drive to do better. But when you're super young, you don't understand intentions. You pull away you pull away your own meanings, that become some core driving memories. And One of my core driving memories was I had conditional love, and I only received love when I did well in sports. Everything else was really, I didn't get as much praise for grades or anything like that. The only reason I wanted to do well in school was so I could keep playing sports. Everything was around feeling worthy enough to be here, right? Another aspect was, um, and again, I feel like I'm going to be talking a lot about my mom, but a lot of the way I thought did come from my mom. But I love her. I love her to death. I have no animosity towards whatsoever. Our relationship is so much better now that I have the understanding that I do have. I just know that this is where a lot of my own shortcomings have come from, right? And because I was able to figure that out through lots of work, and I'll get to the work I did in a second. It's what led me to a lot of the behaviors I struggled with. So that lack of worthiness and my only drive to do well in sports, dictated a lot of what I did. I didn't look at the sport as a whole. I didn't look at everything. I didn't look at the preparation side. I didn't look at the mental side. I only looked at the physical side. I didn't look at the nutritional side. Damn sure didn't look at the nutritional side. I only cared about playing. I didn't like, if my body didn't produce it, if I didn't have the energy, I didn't need it. I didn't understand how food directly impacted me, and I grew up in a very with very little, very low quality food. If you listen to my last podcast, sugar and soda was basically my diet. I did not have very much nutrient density in my diet at all. But yeah, as I grew up, and just that's the football side. And that's why I did push so hard in sports, because I had this connection to it unknowingly. It's only been the last few years where I've actually been able to uncover this, but I thought sports was my life, because it's what I believed it was. It was so crazy. Like, I had so many other, shortcomings, in other aspects. Again, I grew up in a tough household. For those of you who don't know, my biological father is in prison. I think he's still in prison for murder. I had a stepfather that was incredibly abusive verbally and physically, so I learned to kind of close off my emotions and be like the mediator and hate confrontation, and just want to make sure I can make everybody happy and be the person that kind of solves problems, which, for all those people pleasers out there, that does not always go so well. And but it's still a lot of this stuff that I went through, even though I could easily point a finger and say, like, this is all the reasons that I have issues. Well, as I've learned, they're also the reasons why I have the superpowers that I have now. If I didn't grow up struggling so much to feel worthy of, being loved, of being able to show up and, make an impact on people's lives, I wouldn't be able to empathize the way that I can with the people that I work with. If I didn't have a tough childhood, a tough upbringing where, my parents were not the typical happy go lucky, that we had to struggle a lot for what we had, I wouldn't be able to meet a person where they're at, who's going through that same thing, who had the same upbringing, who had never learned positive relationship boundaries or the way they treat themselves. I wouldn't understand any of that, but I'm so grateful that I went through all that, because it gave me the ability to see where a person's at beyond just what the number on the scale says, so that's, where a lot of my issues came from. And, my mom and my stepdad and my biological father, they all had narcissistic tendencies. It's another thing that I struggled with before I started dating my wife. Every relationship I had, it was never my fault. It was always the other person's problem, that their feelings are their own, even though I would just continue to do the same thing to make them feel. I would gaslight a lot, and it was so bad. But again, I just learned a lot of core things that I carried with me throughout my life, and I learned a lot of core behaviors, I should say. And my relationships with myself and with my friends and, girlfriends, it was all learned. And I didn't know anything else, and I wasn't able to really connect all the dots of, like, it was me causing all the issues that I was experiencing with my body when I wasn't supporting it, and when I was struggling to gain weight and I was struggling to lose weight. It took a long time for me to see myself in the mirror as the problem. And then I like to tell a lot of the people I work with that a lot of times we are the problem because we don't know that these underlying issues are there. These relationships we have that we learn from somewhere, were the reasons why we struggle so much in adulthood with our health and our well-being. The way we interact, and that it feels like we have to, but then the same feelings cause more stress and anxiety. Like one of my clients who loves, who has high standards for herself, but she adds so much to her plate all the time, and it gets incredibly overwhelming, and then contradicts what she wants to do for her health and her wellness. And it's like, but I don't know how else to operate. So I don't know, like, I can't be perfect for my weight. I can't be, or my weight loss journey, or my health journey, and I can't be perfect in everything else I got going on. But like, I always put myself on the back burner. Again, we learn that to contradict and put ourselves on the back burner is the reason why we struggle so much. And I'm telling you this story of mine because it's why I ask people why. It's why I want to know how they think. So, because if I know how they think, I can get to the root of the problem. Because if once I found out why I think the way that I think, it was just completely open a new door for me. It completely changed my life. It completely changed every decision I made, because it allowed me to see, is it me making the choice, or is it actually me, like that version of me that I want to be? Or is it that version of me that learned how to survive in an environment that wasn't really catering to the ideal scenario that most people want to live? And a lot of times there's two voices speaking. And for me, there was two voices, and there was a version of me that wanted to be this courageous, this kind, this caring, this strong person that took care of those around him, but had a really, really hard time taking care of himself because he just didn't feel worthy. Wanted to protect himself from the environment that he was in a lot of the time, and he hid a lot of his emotions through sports. As long as he had a sport, he didn't have to deal with them. He didn't have to deal with those pesky thoughts running around. So yeah, as I got older, I was a very terrible, like, I was a very terrible person to be in a relationship with. I was a people pleaser guy. I was friends with everybody. I made friends pretty easily. I always felt kind of hollow. I always like just showed them the very surface level I wanted people to see, because I was, this scared, unworthy kid hiding a lot of the time. And all of that, I got to hide through sports until the day that I lost sports. I'm kind of like going through a lot of stuff, but you know, actually, before I even get to losing sports, a lot of things that I would hide. This is where I learned a valuable lesson of letting emotions run their course and not suppressing, because I would hide so much. I would be so sad and angry and depressed all at the same time, but would just continue to bury those things down. It's why I struggle with suicidal depression. There's two times in my life where I was pretty close to ending things, not being here anymore. And that's, because I learned from a young age, I shouldn't express emotions. I shouldn't show these emotions, but I can't bottle them up. It makes it a lot worse. And ever since then, I've been an advocate for mental health and getting into therapy, because allowing myself to express my emotions has been one of the most transformative processes for me in a long time. So I journal. I'm not a therapist, but I do, like, everything that I've learned through therapy. I try to get my clients who struggle with the mental side to practice those things as well, so they get to see their thoughts on paper, and we get to disconnect. And there's a valuable lesson I learned through my own mental health and processing my emotions is disconnecting the problems and the feelings that we have from ourself in the moment. Because when they're stuck in our head, our brain gets what it looks for due to something called your reticular activating system. It's the same reason why if you get a Prius and you notice Prius is everywhere, right? Or any other vehicle, you notice the same car everywhere. It's not because people bought them the same time you did. It's because now you notice them more, right? And if you're thinking a certain way, say you're going through a very stressful emotion, it's reminding you a lot of very frustrating things, your brain's going to attach that to everything that mimics that emotion. So if we don't ever allow that emotion to run its course, separate it and get it out of our head, then all the problems that remind us of that same emotion are going to come up a lot easier. It clouds our vision, clouds our judgment, and we act irrationally, and we act out of alignment with how we want to feel. Again, I've had to learn this through my own experience, through my relationships. I would act out my emotions without actually giving them the time to process. If I was upset, if I was angry, I would blame the person and throw all my frustration on them. It wasn't actually them; it was me and my reaction, right? And if I didn't give myself the chance to actually disconnect and say, wait, is this how I want to react right now? Because every time I would blow up and be angry at somebody or gaslighting them, I didn't feel any better. I just made the situation worse. Like maybe I felt a little bit better in the moment, but then later, it's not fun to hurt people's feelings. And I'm getting very vulnerable with this because, I've had to learn a lot, guys. I've had to learn so much about myself. And I'm so glad I have, because, all the mistakes, I've made every mistake. I've made every mistake when it came to relationships, when it came to dieting, when it came to myself. I've made so many mistakes, but I'm so happy for every single one of them because I had to learn. And I'm kind of getting off topic here, but I learned so much in such a short amount of time because of my upbringing and all the decisions I made because of them. And I had to catch myself and really clearly define, I'm the son of a murderer. It's actually the working title for one of these days when I finally sit down to write my own book, The Son of a Murderer. I like that. And every father figure that I had was abusive verbally and physically and addictive, except for my most recent stepfather, who passed away a few years ago, who's actually the only my mom didn't marry him until I was 12 or 13, but he was the one that actually showed me how to take care of a family. Way after you have years of someone who just constantly makes you live in fear. I got that last bit of example before, I went off to college and stopped seeing him as much before he passed away, you know. But because I was surrounded by so much negativity, even though there was still some key things that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be abusive physically. I didn't want to, I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be like what I grew up with, even though unknowingly a lot of the behaviors I was doing was similar to what I was brought up with. But I could eventually, because I knew what I didn't want. Every relationship I went through, I learned something new. I say, I can't do that again. I can't do that again. I can't do that again. And I would continue to work through those thoughts and process and show up better for the next one. And as I went to college to play football, still learning my lessons, still figuring things out, and going through one of the longest, most emotionally draining relationships of my entire life. Yeah, I've lived a short life so far, but man, you give 5.5 years of your life to somebody, and then you get dragged on for the last year and a half, and it doesn't work out the way you thought you wanted to. But thank God it didn't, because right after that, I found my now wife, and all the things that go wrong. A lot of things can go wrong, but eventually there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's another big lesson I learned, that all my relationship stuff, my mental stuff, my upbringing, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel eventually. And because I've been able to go through all these things and connect all these dots, it's taught me a lot of how I want to show up. And something I've learned a lot especially from the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, the process of of becoming who you want is usually a process of elimination, and eliminating the things that you don't want in your life. It's just, you have to be practicing and doing your best to catch yourself when you're in those moments where you're struggling with the things that you don't want, and say, oh, this is that thing. Got to catch it, right? I'm sure if you're a longtime listener, being aware of the behavior is super important, because when you catch yourself, that's progress. And then you can start to choose how you want to respond to situations. I digress as always. So as I went to college, playing football, still having my entire identity wrapped in this one thing, and, getting an opportunity to have a pro day, and still, I wasn't really contemplating and processing a lot of things. I was doing my best to learn from relationships and do better, but I was still not fully self-aware. And because I still use football as a crutch. And the day that I had my pro day, and I performed my absolute worst in every single possible way that I could, and it was just the most embarrassing day of my entire life. I felt so empty. I felt so lost, even though I was dating Hannah at the time, and I felt good about where I was at. I finally lost that thing I was hiding behind. that now everything that I was kind of working on, I couldn't hide from it anymore. And so I had to deal with my lack of worth, my lack of worthiness, uh, my issues with myself, my lack of ability to take care of my mental health consistently, um, and everything that I was hiding behind with my sport just came all out at once, you know. And I had struggled gaining weight for the vast majority of my career, and now I forced myself to eat. And I gained like 45 pounds in 3 months, and you know, now I not knowing anything about nutrition, I was just like living with my grandmother and she kept feeding me. I was like, cool, 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 cool. And then nothing changed after that, after I was no longer playing football. Now I was confused. I was lost. I was in a body that I didn't recognize. I didn't have the thing that I thought I needed to keep coping with. And it's weird. It's weird when you feel lost. But that was one of the most pivotal moments for me because I had to make a decision. What do I do now? And that was when I got my first personal training job. Still 45 pounds overweight and just like confused with what I wanted in my life. I was just like, I guess I want to stay around physical stuff as long as I can because that's what I've attached my worth to for so long. So maybe I'll find something here, at the training facility that trained me for my pro day. And this story is kind of going all over the place. But I remember when I first showed up to that facility when I was just getting ready to train, that I felt like I belonged there. And in my head, it was because I was going to use it to launch my professional football career. But in reality, I did belong there because it was the stepping stone to allowing me to find a career that allows me to highlight everything that I've learned so people don't have to learn the way that I did. Or if they are stuck in the patterns and have a hard time identifying them, I'm able to kind of reach in and help them see this is not where they want to be and the action steps to get them out of that. Right. But I was not good at my job when I first started, especially now that I started training people who wanted to lose weight. And I had no idea how to lose weight myself. All I knew how to do was train like I was still playing football. And when you're working with someone who's 80 years old and you're working with like a 9-year-old, like those types of training styles do not work. So I had to learn a lot really quickly. I had to, my first 6 months on the job, I had the most basic certification a personal trainer can get. Did not know how to make a single workout, did not know anything about food. I felt completely inadequate. I kept like doing research on Instagram, finding Instagram workouts and reading articles here and there, but not really fully understanding them. And I was frustrated. And I couldn't really perform at a way of like getting people excited to train with me because I had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. So after that 6 months, after that first job, I decided to quit and move up to the Boulder area with my wife and get certified in 4 different certifications that will actually allow me to understand what the hell I'm supposed to do with people when they want to improve their health and get stronger and lose weight. So I got 2 personal training certifications and then 1 behavior change certification, which was super fun. That was actually the one that I found the most interesting, and hence why I talk more about behavior change than anything else, because no matter how much nutritional or physical fitness information you know, if you don't understand the root cause of why you think the way that you think, or you don't understand how to change your own behavior, the knowledge isn't going to fill the gaps. It's not going to help create more motivation if you are always constantly unknowingly sabotaging yourself. So anyway, after I did that, I got a job at 24 Hour Fitness, and you know, my first job really didn't support me, and well, that's a lie. They supported me as well as best as they could, as much as they knew how. I was strongly faking it till I made it, so I kind of set myself up for some failure there. But my new job, I had a fitness manager that really kept me in the fitness industry because she really guided me in a way that helped me feel like I could do this. She gave me the space to learn. She gave me the space to make mistakes, and she was also there to support me. She gave me the experience that I was looking for. She helped me with sales. She helped me with programming. She was a very big inspiration for me, and that really, like, when COVID hit and you know everyone lost their jobs and my gym didn't really take care of her. You know, I was kind of bummed that she left, but you know she's a great person. And then I was like, well, I don't want to go back to that place anymore, so I might as well figure this out on my own. I'll start my own business. And this is after I had lost weight. finally going through macros and learning, oh, okay, this whole macro thing's interesting. Man, his story's all over the place. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. There's a lot that goes into this. So, anyway, COVID hits. I still don't know much about food. And then my wedding was halfway through 2020, and I wanted to do my best to get in the best shape of my life, because I was losing weight finally. Now that I kind of figure out, I had a friend who gave me my first macro prescription, but I wanted to get shredded. I want to get lean. Um, and I didn't know anything about food. This entire time, I still didn't know anything about food. Right? I was just kind of eating and doing things. I was like, all right, eat more, eat less, blah blah blah. And when I got that first macro prescription, I was following it to a T. I created like this box. It was 300 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, and 100 grams of fat. And I was like, I'm going to eat this exactly the way it's written, because that's what she said to do. And if I deviate, I failed. But I would zero out those macros every single day for about 8 months. I lost like 35, 40 pounds, and I was like 8% body fat. I looked good. Problem was, I dieted for so long and so restrictively that I was sleeping horribly. My stress was super high. Even though my muscle definition was great, my libido was gone, my appetite was gone. More importantly, my relationship with food was gone. I had no idea how to not track a meal and feel comfortable. I went through my wedding like in this constant panic of like, man, I shouldn't be eating this. I shouldn't be eating this, but it's my goddamn wedding. Like, I should be able to just fucking eat and not worry about it. But I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing, because this was new, uncharted territory, and I thought this is what it takes to get results. And I went on my honeymoon. I still had the same thought process as, I'm not tracking, so this is horrible. I'm going to blow up and I gain all the weight back. But I didn't understand what I do now. That I didn't want to live in a life in a box that I had created for myself, because I didn't know how to not do that. And everything that I was learning about my own personal development and paying attention to the way I think, and addressing everything that I've addressed mentally and emotionally, to go to a new process of like, I put all my focus and energy on my body, not realizing that it could be triggering some other relationship stuff that I have with myself. It was very interesting that I got back from our honeymoon. I was like, I'm not doing that again. I haven't tracked since, and we got married in 2020. So yeah, since 2020, I've not touched tracking macros at all. But what I did learn was how to eyeball and say, well, I need to get about this much protein, stay within about this calorie range to maintain the weight and the physique that I want. And without being super restrictive and strict. Like, I still, if I want to have a date night or whatever, I can do that. You know what I mean? And all of this has been able to help me get to a place where I understand myself better than I ever have before. And because I can do that, I can help people understand themselves too, because I've been through so much bullshit. And I've been on every possible issue you could be on. Or every possible side of the equation that you could be on with the issues that I've had. My lack of self-worth, my people pleasing, my perfectionism, my lack of ability to gain weight, my lack of understanding of how to lose weight, not knowing and understanding what my body's telling me, not being able to provide for my body. So many things that but again, I didn't get to this place because it was all sunshine and rainbows. It was fucking shitty, man. I had to fail. I literally failed at everything. Even when I had success with my body, I still I felt miserable the whole time. I didn't feel better. It actually made it worse, because now I had this body that I couldn't lose, because this is the next thing that I tied my worth into, that was so much similar to my sport. And it was another box of frustration and misery, which is not what I wanted. I wanted to live a life where I felt free to make the choice that I want to make, which what a lot of people do, or what a lot of people want. They want to feel free, that they can feel comfortable in their body, eat food that they want to eat in a way that aligns with them and how they want to feel. And I had to and I feel like I said this a lot, but I've had to learn these lessons so much and so often, because now I understand what it feels like to do things in a way that aligns with me. And that's the most important thing. When you can understand how to make just decisions that align with you and how you want to feel, and you can discern how the voices in your head of the voice that the often negative voice that's kind of that has held you back, or held you in a comfortable place, because that's all you know, and the your real voice that wants you to reach new heights and experience the lifestyle, the freedom that you want, right? When you learn to discern those choices and find that middle ground and understand yourself and your body, it's not only what meal plan do I need, or what workout plan do I need, or what macro prescription I need. It's what do I need to move me forward the most? What understanding of myself or my food or my fitness that's going to help me start feeling the way that I want to feel now? And then we practice that. And because I was able to practice that so often, because I failed, guys, I don't know if you understand this. I failed at everything. And I failed so much. So that you don't have to fail as often as I have. And I don't want to sit here and say, "Oh, look at me! I've built a life that I'm like, look at me, the life I built." Like, I'm proud of the life that I built, because it fucking sucked to get here. I'm grateful for it because, like, now that I'm in this moment, that I have the career that I have, that I'm here 2 years later, still talking to you as for my podcast and sharing my stories. I want you to learn from my stories, and hopefully you'll be able to find yourself in them and see that you're not alone. You're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. And I'm here. I'm here to do my best to help you learn these lessons so it doesn't last as long as it did for me. And even when you get to a point that you feel comfortable, you feel happy, you're not necessarily comfortable, but you're satisfied with what you have, what you've accomplished, it doesn't end. You keep doing it. You keep doing the things that help you show up like yourself. You keep practicing making the decisions for yourself, and you keep understanding who's talking, and catching yourself when you start falling into bad or old behaviors and old tendencies, because that's something that I still do. I still fall into some people pleasing, some depressive episodes that don't actually serve me, but that's just how my brain thought for a long time. And even though I've done a lot of work, it doesn't go away. I just get better. I've just gotten better at being able to catch myself and make decisions that will align with me in the long run. And that's why I'm still here 2 years later making this podcast. That's why I'm in this career that I am. I'm a coach, because I want to help you do the same. And even if you're an avid listener of my podcast, my fucking tangents and rabbit holes. I even had the thought of, like, this isn't good enough. I should start over and re-upload this. But no, like, this is me. I know that the story was kind of all over the place, and I kind of skipped over some big highlights, but or some key details. But I wanted to give the main highlights of helping you understand that even though you may not be where you are now, or where you may not be where you are now, you may not be where you want to be. It doesn't mean you're not doing anything wrong. If you're learning, if you're paying attention, if you're adjusting the best way you can, you're getting closer. And even when you do get to a place where you want to be, the work doesn't stop. You keep doing your best, you keep showing up, and you keep learning. Yeah, I think it's a good place to end. My voice hurts. I was on the phone the last 3 days a lot, and now I'm like losing my voice, and I do like almost a 45-minute long podcast. So anyway, here's to 2 years of podcasting. This might I appreciate you if you listen all the way through. If you want to see any of my other stuff, go check the show notes. Lots of cool stuff going on in there. If you've been listening with me or from me since day one, I appreciate the hell out of you. If you're here now listening to me after all the weird change ups and lessons I've learned, I still appreciate the hell out of you. And if this is the last time you hear from or you listen to my podcast, I totally understand. But that's it. I'm done talking. I'm gonna go rest my voice. It's been an absolute blast. I love this podcast. I love being able to share my stories, be able to be there for you, even in a small way. And if I never talk to you directly, I hope I get the chance to even make a small impact in your life. So yeah, happy 2 years. See you on the next one, guys.